Prince William is reportedly formulating a plan to finally strip Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their HRH titles. Riley Sullivan is a lifestyle reporter here at skynews.com.au, and he's always across the latest celebrity headlines.
It didn't come from the tabloids, it didn't break on Twitter, and it definitely didn't start with a bang. No, this started with a whisper, a cold, calculated whisper inside the most powerful halls of government Britain has ever known. Not Buckingham Palace, not Clarence House. We're talking about the House of Lords, the centuries-old force that rarely makes headlines and almost never targets individuals by name. But now, they've named one, and they're moving against her.
Markle is still using her HRH title, despite agreeing to drop the title when the Sussexes left royal duties. How is Will planning to deal with this?
Meghan Markle, once welcomed as a modern face of the monarchy, now finds herself at the center of a constitutional rebellion. Not from the people, but from Parliament itself. A formal motion has been introduced to strip her of her titles. Not symbolically, not hypothetically, but legally, completely. The Duchess of Sussex may soon be nothing at all. Not in the tabloids, not in the headlines, but in the eyes of the law. Because the British establishment has stopped whispering, and they've started something else entirely. A war.
Meghan Markle has been very brazen recently with the use of the HRH. Now, royal fans will know in 2020, during the negotiations for Harry and Meghan to leave royal duties, it was agreed with Queen Elizabeth that they will not use the HRH title. That is a long-standing precedent, and there's good reason for it. Basically, the HRH is only given to work.
At first, no one took it seriously. Just talk, some said. Another rumor, others shrugged. But inside the House of Lords, the whispers weren't fading. They were sharpening. And then, without warning, those whispers became a motion. Tabled, official, undeniable. For those unfamiliar, the House of Lords is not a place for petty squabbles or gossip-fueled debates. It's the oldest democratic chamber in the world, where titles, law, and tradition are taken with solemn weight. And now, in 2025, that same institution has begun a process few thought possible, removing a royal title granted by the sovereign. Let's be clear, this isn't about popularity polls or press coverage. It's not about Meghan's approval rating, or even her critics shouting on YouTube. This is about law, this is about protocol, and this is about a woman born in Los Angeles, married into British royalty, who now finds herself in direct conflict with the constitutional backbone of the United Kingdom. For the first time since Megxit, Parliament isn't just reacting to the Sussexes, it's acting on them. Legislatively, formally, ruthlessly. The motion, spearheaded by Lord Simon Lee, isn't vague or ceremonial. It's detailed. It lists offences. It cites protocols. It's been backed by both Conservative and Labour peers. A rare show of unity that screams, this isn't personal, it's institutional. The charge? Meghan Markle, still using the title Duchess of Sussex, has crossed every line they've drawn. She's roasted tradition, used her rank wrongfully, and embarrassed the monarchy on the world stage, all while continuing to benefit from a title granted by Queen Elizabeth herself. In the quiet corridors of Westminster, that's not just inappropriate, it's unforgivable. And what makes this truly seismic is that it's not just a reaction to a single moment, it's a response to years of perceived disrespect, layer after layer of public drama, unauthorized ventures, and bold headlines that roasts a system built on restraint. So when the petition hit the floor of the Lords, it didn't cause a media circus. It caused silence. Because in the upper chamber of British power, silence means seriousness. And when that silence broke, it wasn't outrage. It was action. We've seen the headlines before. The Oprah interview, the Spotify deal, the Netflix docuseries, the "we're stepping back" statements, the "we want privacy" declarations. But here's the thing. This isn't Megxit. Megxit was royal drama. This question mark, this is parliamentary consequence. When Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal duties in 2020, it was framed as a mutual decision. Queen Elizabeth issued a dignified statement. Boundaries were agreed upon. The Sussexes would no longer represent the crown, and in return, they'd retain their Duke and Duchess titles, but not use their HRH designations in any commercial or official capacity. Simple enough until they didn't follow the rules. Fast forward to today, and it's not the press or the the public holding them accountable. It's Parliament. What makes this situation so different is that the House of Lords has done what Buckingham Palace would not: put pen to paper, document the violations, and move toward stripping Meghan Markle's royal titles by statute. This isn't revenge. This is restoration, restoring the dignity, the neutrality, and the sovereignty of titles that were never meant to be tools for fame, influence, or streaming revenue. And here's where things get uncomfortable, because this action isn't aimed at both Sussexes equally. It's aimed laser-focused at Meghan. Why? Because to the Lords, she isn't just misusing the title. She's branding it, marketing it, and, most controversially, weaponizing it. From the outside, this might look like theater, but behind the chamber doors, it's very serious. The Lords have precedent, they have polling data, and they have a mountain of examples where Meghan used her Duchess identity not as a ceremonial designation, but as a commercial product. Think about that for a moment. A royal title granted by the sovereign being repackaged as a personal brand. Podcast intros, reality series taglines, red carpet sound bites. To many in Parliament, that crosses the line from modern royal to unauthorized influencer. And the consequences? They're not theoretical anymore. In the House of Lords, legislation is now on the table. This isn't Megxit 2.0. It's the next chapter. And this time, there might not be a quiet exit. There might be no title left to exit from at all. If there was one moment that snapped Parliament out of silence, it wasn't a podcast episode or even a Netflix scene. It was a trip not to the UK, not even to Europe, but to Nigeria. What was supposed to be a low-profile cultural visit quickly turned into something else entirely, a spectacle. Meghan and Harry, dressed in ceremonial attire, walking red carpets, shaking hands with military officials, giving speeches, all under the soft glow of cameras, all while repeatedly being referred to as Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It looked, sounded, and felt like a royal tour, except for one glaring issue. No one approved it. The British Foreign Office wasn't informed. Buckingham Palace wasn't consulted. And yet, there they were, acting as if they were still senior royals on official crown business. To most people scrolling Instagram, it looked glamorous. But inside Westminster, it looked like diplomatic overreach. A breach so bold, it stunned even seasoned insiders. Because in the world of monarchy and government, symbolism matters. When someone who once represented the crown starts staging unofficial tours in foreign countries, posing with top officials, making statements about British heritage, it sends a message. One the actual British government didn't authorize. The House of Lords didn't just criticize it, they cited it. In the formal petition to strip Meghan of her title, the Nigeria trip was labeled unauthorized diplomatic posturing that risked confusing Britain's neutral foreign policy stance. Think about that. Not a scandal, not an affair, a constitutional breach through choreography and optics. Behind the glitz, Parliament saw something more dangerous: an American celebrity using a British royal title to forge international credibility, without responsibility, without oversight, and with zero accountability. And that, to the House of Lords, isn't just inappropriate, it's dangerous. Because when someone pretends to speak for the crown without permission, they undermine the very system that gives that title its meaning. What made it worse? The Sussexes didn't back down. They posted photos, released footage, made speeches, all with the Duchess of Sussex name front and center. To the Lords, it wasn't just a PR stunt, it was defiance, and it lit the final fuse. Royal titles were never meant to be hashtags, but over the last few years, the name Duchess of Sussex has appeared in places no royal title ever has. Podcast intros, Netflix trailers, Spotify thumbnails, even trademark filings. This wasn't subtle. This was strategic. Meghan and Harry didn't just build a media empire, they built it on their titles. From the moment their Spotify deal launched, Archetypes with Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, wasn't just the name of a show, it was a brand asset. Introduced like a royal proclamation, marketed like a commercial product, sold like a logo. Then came the Netflix docuseries. The opening credits, Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, filmed in luxury, framed as truth, packaged as royalty. To their critics in Parliament, this wasn't creative expression. This was blatant commercialization of a sovereign designation. In fact, it went further. Documents later surfaced showing that the couple attempted to trademark Sussex Royal, as if a hereditary title could become a lifestyle brand. They planned to use it for everything: merchandise, digital media, even wellness products. That plan was only halted when Queen Elizabeth herself stepped in, blocking them from using royal for commercial purposes. Still, the damage had been done. And now, now, the House of Lords is treating it as a direct violation of royal protocol. Their petition lists all of this as evidence of Meghan Markle using her Duchess title for personal gain. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly, systematically. And here's where things get especially problematic. They claim this behavior violates the Royal Titles Act of 1917, which prohibits title holders from using noble designations for self-promotion or financial leverage. In plain terms, Meghan turned the monarchy into a brand. She took a ceremonial title and used it to market a global lifestyle. To traditionalists in Parliament, this isn't just distasteful, it's a collapse of royal boundaries. Because if titles can be sold like shoes or streamed like reality shows, what's left of their meaning? The Lords have made it clear the monarchy cannot allow its noble designations to become clickbait. Meghan's defenders say she's modernizing the system, but in Parliament's eyes, she's monetizing it. And that, more than anything, may be what finally gets her title revoked. Because when royal privilege becomes a personal business, it's no longer a title, it's a trademark. And that's not how monarchy works. It wasn't a Netflix scene, it wasn't a statement, it was a throwaway moment, a backstage video, a concert clip. But for many in Britain, that was the final straw. At Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter concert in Los Angeles, Meghan Markle is caught on video, laughing, dancing, then casually shouting to Mindy Kaling, "You know I'm Sussex now." Not Meghan, not just a fan. I'm Sussex. On the surface, it looked like nothing, a playful, off-the-cuff joke. But inside Parliament, it landed like a bombshell. The House of Lords cited the clip by name in the formal petition. Their claim? It wasn't just a joke. It was a crass trivialization of sovereign designations. In other words, she turned a royal title into a punchline. For centuries, noble titles in Britain have been treated with reverence. A Duchess title isn't just a pretty name or a social rank. It's a ceremonial role bestowed by the sovereign to honor tradition, heritage, and public duty. But shouting, "I'm Sussex now," at a concert, to many, it reduced centuries of history to a hashtag. And if Parliament was simmering before, this boiled the pot, because this moment didn't exist in a vacuum. It came after the Nigeria tour, after the podcasts, after the docu-series, after years of monetizing the title on everything from Netflix thumbnails to red carpet bios. But unlike those, this moment went viral. And the British public? They noticed. According to a May 2025 YouGov poll, a staggering 77% of respondents said Meghan Markle should be stripped of her Duchess of Sussex title. That's not just a majority, that's a national statement. Even more surprising, the support cuts across party lines. From Labour voters to Conservatives, from Gen Z to retirees, the sentiment was unified. Enough. Some respondents even said that if Meghan and Harry truly believed in stepping back from the monarchy, they should hand the titles back with dignity. One voter put it bluntly, "You can't call the system oppressive and then keep using its privileges. That's not rebellion, that's marketing." In Parliament, this polling wasn't just public opinion, it was ammunition. The Lords included the numbers directly in their motion, framing the issue not just as royal decorum, but as a matter of public integrity. Because once the public believes the titles are meaningless, then they really are. And if the monarchy won't act, Parliament will. By now, the House of Lords had more than enough power, but they weren't done. In the petition, they outlined a series of final, dangerous accusations designed not just to question Meghan's conduct, but to frame it as a threat to constitutional order. One of the most serious? The Oprah interview. The Lords didn't mince words. They cited Meghan's public allegations of discrimination within the royal family, delivered to an audience of tens of millions, while she still officially held the title Duchess of Sussex. No names were mentioned, no evidence presented, but the impact was massive. The monarchy, unable to respond publicly, was left to face a global media firestorm, with headlines branding the crown as outdated, colonial, and inherently problematic. To her supporters, Meghan was speaking her truth. To Parliament, it was public perception against the institution of the crown. They didn't frame it as free speech. They framed it as institutional sabotage, attacks launched under the protection of a title that prevented any formal rebuttal. And it wasn't just Oprah. The petition lists Meghan's Archetypes podcast by name, arguing that she used her royal connection to boost personal projects while leveling attacks on the very system that gave her that visibility. This isn't about censorship, one peer said during the debate. It's about accountability. You cannot burn the house down while collecting rent from it. The Lords also pointed to the Royal Titles Act of 1917, a rarely invoked law that prohibits title title holders from using their designations for commercial or performative gain. They argue Meghan's podcast, deals, press interviews, and scripted content all fall under violations of that act. Not just inappropriate, not just provocative, illegal. The document goes further, mentioning examples of other royals who've honored their titles with quiet dignity. Princess Alexandra, the Duke of Kent, names the public barely hears because they respect the ceremonial, not commercial, nature of their roles. And in direct contrast, Meghan Markle. The petition calls her a self-inflicted public spectacle, whose use of the Duchess title has dragged its integrity through scandal, monetization, and media sensationalism. To Parliament, the message is now crystal clear. If Meghan wants to be a celebrity, an activist, an entrepreneur, fine. But she cannot do it while clinging to a royal title granted under a system she continually undermines. Because at some point, the title doesn't elevate her, it protects her, and Parliament's patience with that protection has run out. This isn't just a story about a title, it's a collision course between two powerful ideas. On one side, Meghan Markle, actress, activist, businesswoman, and yes, a duchess. On the other, the British monarchy, an institution older than most modern governments, built on tradition, silence, and symbolism. And until now, these two forces existed in a delicate balance. But, as the House of Lords has now made clear, that balance is over. Because Meghan represents something the monarchy has never quite known how to handle. Modern celebrity fused with royal privilege. She doesn't follow palace press protocols. She doesn't dress in diplomacy. She doesn't live in the UK. She doesn't ask permission. Instead, she builds podcasts, shows, platforms, a brand. Not a duchess in service, a duchess in strategy. And it's not subtle. Her business deals, social appearances, and public statements continue to use the royal designation as a badge of status. To millions, she's still the Duchess. Not because of tradition, but because of perception. She's made the title famous on her own terms. But therein lies the danger. Because while Meghan sees the title as a tool, a personal asset, the monarchy sees it as an obligation, a covenant, a link in the chain of duty that extends back centuries. And for the Lords, allowing that title to become a marketing label isn't just embarrassing, it's catastrophic. Why? Because if Meghan is allowed to keep it, despite everything, then what does that say about every title that still exists? About every duke, duchess, lord, or baron who does follow the rules? It says that honor can be borrowed, that status can be streamed, that royalty can be repurposed into influencer content, and that's a precedent they cannot afford to set. So this isn't about punishing Meghan, it's about protecting something bigger. The entire framework of nobility, public duty, and symbolic restraint that holds the monarchy together. Because in the end, the question isn't, did Meghan break a rule? It's, can the monarchy survive when its titles become trademarks? The House of Lords has answered, and their answer is bold, legislative, and absolute. What started as whispers in Westminster has become a war cry from the heart of Britain's oldest institution. The petition is in. The debate has begun. And Meghan Markle's title as Duchess of Sussex is officially on the line. No longer a matter of gossip, no longer a tabloid theory. This is real, legal, social. And for the first time in modern memory, the British Parliament is moving to erase a royal title. Not for scandal, but for branding misuse. Not for controversy or moral failure, but for turning royalty into reality TV. If passed, the motion would strip Meghan of the Duchess title once and for all. No fanfare, no headlines, no ceremony, just a quiet revocation in the record books. A powerful act of restoration dressed in parliamentary silence. And what happens next? That's still unfolding. But one thing is clear. The monarchy is drawing a line between duty and identity, between ceremonial privilege and celebrity culture. Meghan and Harry once said they wanted freedom, and they got it. Freedom from the palace, freedom from the press, freedom to speak, build, and brand however they wanted. But what they didn't expect was consequence. Because freedom from tradition comes with a price. You don't get to keep the benefits of the system you walked away from. And as Meghan's defenders decry discrimination and unfair scrutiny, the House of Lords remains unmoved. Their message is simple. Titles are not souvenirs. Duchess is not a stage name. Royalty cannot be rented. So what happens now? Maybe the petition passes. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe Meghan keeps the title on paper, but loses it in the eyes of history. Because this isn't just about revoking a name. It's about redrawing the limits of what royalty means in the age of social media, streaming, and celebrity activism. The fairy tale is fading. The brand is under fire. And the crown is finally fighting back, not with interviews or headlines, but with legislation legislation. What began as a whisper may end as a constitutional eviction. And Meghan Markle, once the face of royal reinvention, could soon be something no duchess has ever been before: a duchess undone.